Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk About It. Once again, you have your dynamic duo of myself, Michael Curtis, and Mr. Jonathan Green. And
Hello,
as
hello.
always, as you see, this episode is brought to you by the Perfect Partner. So, so always exciting to, we've had some pretty good topics, and I hope everybody's been enjoying them. Today, we're going to touch on, and once again, our shows are always about our opinion, and you're always welcome to give yours as well. But we like to touch on subjects that spark up conversation. And today's no different. Our topic for today is: has ballroom dancing become a sport for the elite, or has it always been that? So let's. I think we should define what we mean by that. So what do you think about that, Jonathan?
I think what I think of that as that question, what do we mean by elite? By elite, we mean power, money, and sex. By sex, I mean physical attraction, like the people who want these things or have these things. And I mean, you might have just, summed the episode all up right there with your first response to it, which has it always been that. And in a sense, it kind of has always been that, but that's not what it may have helped it grow and become what it is now, but it's not like the reason for the positives that we've gotten from the growth we've had in our industry. Every industry, every art, sport it requires the collective to continue pushing, exploring new avenues, trying to make things better, trying to create change, and working together, exploring different viewpoints in order to make this process really a successful and speedy one, so that we can reap the benefits sooner. And of course, there's always work to be done, which means there's always going to be a necessity in bringing more people in to help us grow our sport or our industry. So when it comes down to that, being a sport or art more focused for the elite can be harmful, I guess, is kind of where my head goes with the subject. But you can get into a whole bunch of detail on all of these things. So specifically, money. It's elite. It's obviously a sport that is for the more wealthy. Private lessons are expensive. They're almost. Let me rephrase this. Private lessons are almost like they're expected. They are a necessity if you want to compete in ballroom dancing.
Like blood.
And that's good. Absolutely. I love that. I think that's a necessity for any art sport where you're wanting to pursue it to high or deep levels, or you want to pursue the quality of what you're doing. You always are going to have to seek out that kind of personal training. But then on top of that, also then the fashion that goes into it with, and actually before I even go to then the competition expenses and the dress expenses, the look expenses, which does kind of bring us into and the travel expenses. I mean, all the things that go into it, which then does kind of bring us into kind of the sex part of it. Like, it's very much about looking a certain way, and so also possibly acting a certain way, which then brings us to the power part of it, which is, everybody, how is the system built? Is the system built in a way that it's encouraging for new people to join in and help grow the system? Or is the system built in a way that it kind of keeps the progress private and kind of just tells the people involved what's going on? thus making people have to act a certain way, creating standards, and those decisions being made behind doors that that people aren't a part of, and there's no voting system to choose who's making these decisions, things like that, for the everyday dancer. So,
So
man,
let me jump in on one of those. So you mentioned kind of the three things, and I kind of want to take them so we can kind of break them down for viewers, and so they can kind of piece this together. Let's go back to that money thing. So like we talked about money, and I do agree. Like, can I fault the industry for being who it is, of being what it is, and for being, this is who we are. If it's always been that way, it's kind of like horse racing. Don't buy the horse if you can't afford the trainer and the food and stuff like that. Don't buy the Maserati if you can't afford the gas. So we understand that if you look at the lessons, like it's gonna be pretty expensive. Where I get into it is what is too expensive? What is too much? And that's where I kind of get into that. And everybody has across the nation has different pricing depending on where they are. Is 75 too much? Is 85 per lesson too much? When like when we were talking earlier, I compared it to massage. Massage, you're gonna pay, hour massage, you're gonna pay like 75, 85 bucks, and you don't learn anything, and you've got to come back to get that feeling again, versus dancing, you're paying that same 85, whatever bucks, and and maybe that price is old, but you're learning something, you're learning a skill that you can take on for the rest of your life. So, but then, here's where I get to the elite part. When does a professional dancer become worth $250 for a 45-minute lesson? When does that happen? And it's more of that's my opinion. But for me, when does that person reach that level that they go, you know what, for me, it's 250? When you're basically saying almost the same thing that the guy that said that basically is 95, but it's who you are, and you may have won a championship, but isn't the information almost the same? I get that, Michael Jordan has a championship, so he has that championship caliber, that championship caliber that he can coach somebody to a championship. I get that. But when does somebody become that person, And that's where I kind of like draw the line, is like, how much is too much? What do you think about that?
It's interesting. I guess I don't have a problem with people charging more based off of experience and training. I think that's almost a necessity. I get that it has to be measured. I don't think there's a way to measure that. I mean, that makes me just think of how, low the standard is for teachers in general. Like, it charges. So here's on specifically the money part for private lessons.
Mhm.
There are some people, I don't have any problem with someone charging $20 for a private lesson. And I do not have any problem with someone charging $250 for a private lesson, as long as that money represents their level, their experience, what they're offering, and the person who's offering the lessons and the person taking them are both aware of that situation, what level that person is, and whatnot. Do I think that would happen? No, that's the perfect world. That won't happen. People who think they're the best tend to be the worst. So you get what I'm saying. It's too many people are ignorant. I don't know how you would monitor that. I think in general, there needs to be a more standardized kind of like, I guess I would hope there was in lots of industries. Like, okay, so this person goes through this training, so they're a grunt level employee, so they get paid this much. And then if they are willing to do the work to go through this training, learn how to do these things, what's necessary for the job next in line, then they can move up into that position, and then so forth and so forth and so forth. I don't feel like that's the approach, not just that the businesses take, but also the teachers take. I don't know whether chicken or the egg, why that is the case, but it seems like teachers very often want to be independent and be in charge of their own stuff, and don't think that the business owners have anything to offer in terms of training. and it's very often that the business owners don't want to offer anything, anything in terms of building that person up to own their own studio separate from your own, or maybe even giving them part ownership of your own studio. There doesn't seem to be a path that's clear for someone who wants to be a ballroom dancer and then move up through the chains. If that
Yeah, I
existed,
think some of the chains have them. I think that a lot of the chains have them. I think independent studios don't really have that. But let's not put it on them.
I mean, the chains have them more so for sure, but even the chains lack, from my experience and from what I hear, they still lack in that category. But I'm
I take the word for that. When I spent a little time in the chains and then spent, had enough and spent it more in independence. But going back to the elitist and the money side of that one, and my argument was more, I mean, I guess the right price is whatever you can get somebody to pay. I mean, to be honest, but I mean, if you want to be honest,
that's a salesman attitude.
That's a salesman attitude. That's what it is.
I don't like that, but
if I can show you value for why you're going to pay me this, maybe I'm in a studio and the studio's like, well, look how beautiful our studio is, and you get to be a part of this, and you get this great instructor, pay us $150 per lesson. Well, we're more power to you, but we're talking about, when does it become that the average working person cannot afford dance lessons? And I don't know too many people that are going to pay $250 for one 45-minute lesson. And that's me.
But no, you're talking about the wrong group of people here, though. The average working person can't afford $85 for a private lesson. So you can't say that and then say can't afford $250. You've long passed the average working person. And those are the people I'm talking, like, there needs to be lower level teaching and training at $20 a lesson, $30 a lesson, a way for people who are not able to afford ballroom dancing.
Well, I think you can though. We have too many independents, and the independents are basically just going, what's everybody else charging versus going, what value do I offer? And what value do I offer? Studying the actual market and going, this is what my price should be. They're just going,
note, independents, you could change the world. Take note, independent teachers, you could change the world. Charge what you believe you should charge off of what you know. Just like Michael said there. Don't think about what other people charge. What would you pay for your lesson with yourself?
Right. Here's my thought process. If you were at Fred Astaire for like 2 months and you got the junior associate or whatever social foundation thing, and you leave Fred Astaire, don't go become an independent and go, well, Jonathan Green charged 85. I'm going to charge 85 too, because that's what everybody's charging. It's not the same thing. Okay, so I don't want to. That's another subject. I don't want to get off the topic. That's another subject. But it's a slippery slope, because the money is there. There has to be a point where it just becomes too much for people. Now, I do have people that are teachers assistants, principals, people that are working on like a certain thing and that don't work during the summer. They can't afford it because they budget. So, 75, 85, is it fair? It's once again, comparing it to other services where persons,
See, that's another thing. Like, I wanted to point that out and I just kind of forgot about it because we had other things we were talking about, but you had a good point there too. And just something to propose as a thought for everyone. Why is it that sports private training seems to be cheaper than something like those health, like getting a massage? Why is it that, because those are arguably just as healthy, getting the physical workout versus getting the kind of relief for your body? Both of these things are important, but it seems to me that sports training, and don't get me wrong, I know there are those sports trainers who get paid out the wazoo, just like there are some ballroom dancers that get paid out the wazoo. But it seems to me like when I drive around the street and I see a fitness place or a sports place versus when I see a massage place or something of the sort, the private lessons in the sports the private training in the sports seem to be lower cost than the other. I don't know, just interesting to me.
I'm not certain, but yeah, I think there is definitely
maybe I'm wrong.
I think this sport is, and to take it from the lessons and take it broader, take it more specific, like broader, is the competitions. I mean, let's be real. And so to get back to what we were talking about, I definitely feel there's a part where it's for the people that do have money. I've had students that have complained, like, well, I can't afford to do 400 entries. But guess what? That person that can afford to do 400 entries and go to like a comp a month, guess what? They're getting seen by judges all the time. So no matter how much this person trains, if they can only afford to do I can only do 20 entries because I can do all the styles, not even 20 entries, but include a scholarship with that. They're not getting seen as much as that one, and that's a shame, but you can't, is that person going to ever be like a top student at the world dance sport level? Who knows, but it's going to be a tough road to travel. So yeah.
Well, as far as competition, for sure.
Right.
I mean, there's no disagreement. That's obvious, right? As far as competition goes, it's a sport for the elite. I mean, I don't think there's any disagreement there. I don't think people would, if someone's trying to disagree with that, then they're just ignorant. Yeah. I mean, you're just missing something. I don't know what to tell you guys. You're missing something. It's obvious that when it comes to competing ballroom, you can only do it if you have a good amount of income.
A good amount of resources to do it, absolutely. So it's kind of hard to be, it's kind of hard to do those things if you're just, if you're budgeting on the lessons. But so and the question you said was, is ballroom exclusive? That was kind of the subtitle. Is it exclusive? It kind of is, and it kind of sucks because you even feel it at the pro level. Am I in a position to go to all these workshops, take all these coachings? Unless I have a partner that can take it with me, I'm stuck to kind of like, can I even afford the manuals? That's when we were using manuals and not even using apps. I had to pony up and buy all these manuals and to hone my craft. You're like, all the money you're spending out of it versus this person's like, oh yeah, I bought new shoes, I did this, I got this many things. You're like, holy crap. So we feel it
for
from
sure.
the side of it too. So yeah, it's definitely the money side is, and even and I'll put this out there, I have known coaches that only want and this is more of a power thing maybe that we talked about.
So before you go into that, hold that thought. Because another thing I wanted to point out is that people don't realize how deep these things go. Like the thing I said before about fueling the industry by bringing more people in on what you're doing to get their thoughts so that we can all grow quicker. In order to grow the industry, you have to bring more people in. That's just a necessity. And the more people you can bring in, the faster the industry will then grow. That's just how it's going to work. When we have, I'm losing it. I'm sorry. When we have a system that's set up where competing is only affordable for the select few, you're taking away, where are these people supposed to dance that can't afford to compete? You know what I mean? Like that competition is it's a necessary outlet for these people to have to be able to kind of justify in their minds spending the money on the private training for the dance lessons.
Would argue go to one of these little lower competitions that they have in the studios. Go to a mini comp. Go to a studio comp. They're going to argue that there's stuff available, but why can't
yes.
But if it's inclusive, I should be able to join the other comps where everyone else is at, and I feel like I have to go to. And it's not even a bottom shelf comp, but it's like it's not here. I can only go to this one because they're only going to charge me $15 an entry, and I can afford that. I can't afford $45 an entry, which is like, the one entry is half of my dance lesson. It was like, so it's becoming kind of crazy, and it's like, it's kind of like, do we reduce spending? Let's have it somewhere where you don't have to spend as much. Then, do we need 5-star hotels? Fine. Do I need to be in those hotels, or am I there to dance?
And the problem you'll run into there is that because of what they've been doing, it is an elite sport. It's built for those people who do like those things. If you just ask the people attending the competitions now who are giving the people who are running the business their money, if we just ask them, then no, they're going to want the hotels. But it's like I don't know, do the people who are like running this not get that we can't let them dictate what we do, or else we'll always end up just kind of limited by whatever the elite want. Like, we have to eventually make a push to make Ballroom available to all as an industry as a whole.
Yeah, I will say, is this going to be the time? Will this whole COVID thing affect that?
That's a good point.
Will we actually look at it and go, I know I need money, but I'm now understanding that people's paychecks are getting affected. So do we change our format, or do we just come back blazing, bullheaded, and go, hey, same competition, unified brand? So it's almost like, will we kind of like reshuffle things a little bit?
I love your idea. I'm gonna do this, Michael. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna reshuffle. And to anyone out there who is watching who wants to participate in figuring out how to do this correctly, reach out to me and let me know, because I'm gonna start today figuring out how to do this, because I do believe there should be change.
Yes, but to kind of bring my point around, when I was talking about what I was going to comment about, even though I said power, it's still about money. You have some coaches that I've actually dealt with too, that they want to hold their information exclusively to people they want to teach it to, whether it's just their people at their studio. And I've actually experienced that, where it's like, this person won't go out and they'll just hold their information for certain people. I'm not talking about them, but then you have
who wants to do that. I'm okay with them keeping their information.
That's all good. But then you're talking about, of it being elite. Well, it's access to information. If a student can't afford the $250 person, but yeah, of course, this person that's always winning can, well, then there's a big difference. And I'm going to be the first one to say it. There is a difference in every sport, a person that's learned how to get to the championship and won it in every sport. That's why they call them championship caliber coaches. Because if Michael Jordan has won 6 of them, I'm pretty sure he can teach anybody how to kind of almost get there, because he'll give them knowledge on how to get there. Versus that is a thing.
But that's the problem with that, is that, and this is when people say in Ballroom a lot of the time, if you want to find the right coach, find the champion, and then find out who coaches them. But the problem with taking I agree with your strategy in general. Like, in the perfect world, that should work. But
not really strategy. I'm just saying that's the way it kind of works right now. Is people go, it's kind of built upon that hierarchy of, this champion will get me there. But if we look at that and talk about the money again, if I don't have access to the same information that other people
have, how is it built on that?
It was just like you just said. You just said the same thing. We look at a champion and go, well, let's get the champion coach. My point about that was bringing that up was, if we just keep that in a vacuum, my point is, if I don't have the money for the same resources that this other person has, then is that fair?
Let me finish my thing on that. Like I said, in the perfect world, that would make a lot of sense. But in reality, it doesn't. Most people are ignorant. People who have become champions are actually very much, and this is important for everybody to know, do not know how they became champions. They are clueless. They were just hitting the grind every day, and they happened to fall into the right path with the right people. And somehow the other things were going on they're oblivious about, and they became the champions. And I'm not saying like political things to make them the champions or anything like that. It could be legitimate, working hard, things like that. But they do not know what it was. And the reason I say this is just because I've experienced myself having a champion showing me what to do and telling me what to do for a long time period, and then having someone who wasn't a champion telling me what to do for a long time period. And the person who made me a much, much better dancer was the one who was not a champion. And this person not just made me a better dancer, they understood what I needed, was able to explain things and explain what I was missing and full picture things versus just go, 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 go. Yeah. Some coaches make champions just by pushing them constantly. Some people make champions by explaining them what they have to do, and then they search for the person who is going to take the information and do what's needed to be done with it. So
I agree 100% with you. And for those watching, my comment was a hypothetical to set up the situation about money and resources versus me believing that.
Gotcha.
So that was a scenario basically saying like, if resources are here and it costs this much to get those resources, not everybody can afford those resources. And
Perfect example of elitist.
some of those resources are held out because and that becomes a power thing. I will only teach the people I think are worthy to get my knowledge. That's, it's like, well, then we got a little power thing there. So, I mean, that's the money thing. From a money side, I think we pretty much covered it. I think there definitely is I think we have a right, just like any other sport, to basically say this is our identity. Like I said, I use horse racing, and I spent a little time working at a company in IT and just doing support, like at the big brown jug. And that stuff costs money. It costs money, so you can't really get into that game unless you can like take the whole picture in there and go, I can afford all of it, And it doesn't change its entry and go, well, let's do this. So the bottom line, I think it basically says this is who we are, but it doesn't mean I can't point out the fact that I don't feel it's right. If we're going to be,
and it's very different too, because like this, I mean, I get it. I get that there are very much similarities with the horse racing or the.
That was why I just put out there.
But that requires a horse and area and space upkeep for these things that we're just people doing it. I mean, like there's not that is a different animal to bring into the.
Yeah, I'm bringing up. I'm just.
I get. You bring it up because some sports, hobbies, whatever, have their way of doing things. I get it. Yeah. And I guess then my response to that would be, do we want to continue being a small industry, a small world, or do we want to make ballroom dancing opened up for everyone? Right. And if we really are choosing to not open it up for everybody intentionally, like we legitimately, the people who are really guiding the industry are legitimately choosing to keep people out, then that would be such a disappointment. I don't think that is the case.
I don't think so.
If I thought that was the case, I would stop dancing and find a new industry to get involved in immediately, or I would start up arms against these people and make it my life's work to destroy them.
But we already know that the system is broken because we're having this conversation.
Right.
Okay. And we talked about the money thing. Yeah, I brought up that instance of it, but it's kind of true. Playing devil's advocate, which is what I like to do. I like to do that. Mm-hmm. Playing devil's advocate, someone could argue like, look, it's not like we hide it. We basically tell our students like, this is how much competitions are. This is how much is. Can you do it? Yep. And then they complain later, I can't afford it. That's devil's advocate. That's devil's advocate.
It's funny because they do complain. It's absolute.
Can you take any more off? I've already taken my fee off. I've cut it in half. So
you can explain as much as you want, but still.
So yeah. But what do you think about let's cut into another one. What are you talking about with this whole physical attractiveness? What is that all about?
Well, if we keep it simple,
it's not gonna be simple.
If I'm at a that dancer you're talking about, that student who goes to a comp and pays for 100 entries or 200 entries or 400 entries,
right?
Who the only person they're losing to is if that person didn't buy more entries than them, and this is totally exaggerated, but is a sexy person, is a person who looks the part, dressed the part, meaning paid to dress the part, and looks everything, and even physically, like in shape, pretty, features, things like that. These people, you have a chance. And I'm exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating.
Own that.
It's like, it's like there's my point is that it's important for me to say I'm exaggerating because it's not to say that it doesn't happen that someone can win in spite of all these things. It does. And it happens not all too often, but way too often people win because of these things. So, it's.
Yeah, I think for me, it's almost like they get a first look. They get a first look. Beauty stands out, that is right. To be clear, this is not a woman thing. This is a woman and man thing. And it's a couple thing. Oh, this couple looks good together. Oh, I want to see them dance. It's your see attractiveness. It's like the dresses. Oh, that's a pretty dress. Well, can somebody, and this goes back to the money thing, can somebody that buys off the rack legitly win a competition if they can't afford the $7,000 dress? But you know what? I found something at Kohl's that was kind of similar, but it doesn't have all the bedazzlements. Will you find them and will you judge them correctly, or will
You
it go
know
back?
how good that person has to dance.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you don't smell good in the ballroom, you will not get marked.
Every hair has to be.
And again, but
You know,
it can happen.
It can happen. It can happen. You know, I could be president. Probably not going to happen, but it could happen. So,
but yeah, so it's definitely a sport based around that fitting the physical features.
yes,
And very much like you said, tying it back to the money, they make some of these basic things like if you don't have the basic setup, the makeup, the hair, the dress, which are not cheap things, then you really probably do not have a chance to win this on the floor. And that's a legitimate, and people will say that that's okay. That is legitimate. They'll put that back in that category. You said this is like, it's just how we do things. It's what we expect. We are focusing on aesthetics here. It's just what we do. And it's like, okay, but the priority should still be functionality.
and yeah, it should be, and that's where we talk about that fits our definition. Honestly, I mean, it's for the people that have the money. Let's be real. Why should I have to put a house payment down on a dress in order to look the part?
that was real, people.
That one more again. Because I know how much when I was married, how much we put down on our house. And you're talking about 5 figures, but it wasn't too far off from these $9,000, $10,000 dresses I'm hearing. Okay. When did that become a thing? So it definitely, and you got somebody that can only afford, I can only afford what's off the rack, and then I can bedazzle it myself,
And keep in mind, people, that this is different from some people are going to have a lot of money and they should be able to spend their money. Absolutely. Yeah. We get that. It should exist. But you cannot find a shop at these competitions that isn't that. That's the problem. There is only the outlet for the wealthy. There is no alternative.
Yeah, you can rent from someone. You have some of these consignment ones popping up. I know about 2 of them. 2 of these consignment ones that you can rent the dress, whatnot, which is cool. Which is
still
cool.
More expensive than what people are able to afford. So most people will back out of it, at least in the category we're talking about. But no, that is cool. That is a very cool system to offer. Even if it's not for the people who need to save money, I think that's cool just for someone who wants to try on different dresses and have different looks when they go out to compete. So even if you have money, I think doing consignment dresses is a cool idea.
I think it's
fun to me.
Yeah. So we do have people out there that are trying to make it more acceptable for people, but it's not enough. It's not enough. We have a lot of dancers that are on the average scale. And right now, I would love to take a poll of where are people now financially? Where were you pre-COVID? Where are you now? And once again, will there be a shuffle? Or is everything going to be going steam ahead? Which I don't
shuffle it up.
Yeah, because we might be heading to a second lockdown here. So I mean, what's going to happen?
Yeah, no, I love that you pointed that out, Michael. I think that's I think now is a time that it's an opportunity to make that shuffle. So I'm going to definitely explore options with that.
Yeah. Sure. And then our last point is power. There's a power play in this. We know there's a power play. I mean,
Everybody bitches about it.
I've had my say-sos about, NDCA and organizations here. Do they really represent the dance community, or is it just people that just want political power in this industry and just kind of want to pull strings, and it's not really for the people. So,
or even that they don't particularly even care about pulling the strings, and they just don't particularly care about leading the industry into a new age. That is equally a problem. Someone at the person who is leading needs to be passionate about making the change. They need to be working every day.
And then can you get into these organizations? Can somebody like me or you, without a championship, be voted in as a member of NDCA. How hard would that be? Well, look at the members, no. It's just like,
It's funny. I don't know, but I believe you totally.
I just don't see it would be a hard path. You got
If
people.
that is the case, that's an extremely hard path because never mind. I'm sorry. You were going to say why would that be a hard path?
Yeah, I think it would be a hard path because you got people like you see like you had like someone that's actually kind of high up in the industry couldn't even get either voted in or whatever, and it's just like, and there was this one guy that like he made total sense about his viewpoint. It's kind of like I'm watching this guy with his viewpoints and like he just didn't get voted in, but to me it's just like you're not going to get the incumbents out, because I think these people are holding on to power and they're not going to let go of the power. And it's hard to get in there, but these are the ones that are kind of going, this is what dance is and this is what we're going to do. And is that for all of us? Is it driving all of us? Because if it's going to start anywhere, it would have to start there by saying, okay, we see how things are going, let's now make something where we can make it like a no frills comp. Let's make it something where it's going to be more inclusive. Are they taking that into consideration or not?
Right. I mean, you would like to think that there are individuals having the discussions. Problem is that's not nearly enough, and there's not nearly enough individuals having the discussions. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we've pretty much made it clear. I mean, another thing to point out is, like you were saying on your point of if you're not a champion, can you make it into that system? Well, and that means that you also had to make it through the previous system we were talking about, which is fitting all the standards for becoming a champion. So if you aren't able to make it through both of these now set tests, but I mean, I get that there's going to be tests that people have to make it through to get into certain positions. The higher up those positions are, the more tests you're going to have to go through or loops you have to go through to get them. I just think there needs to be a more democratic take on it. Like there needs to be, there needs to be a voting system. A day when everybody gets to vote on positions, and I know that it can't obviously just be as plain as I just said. You know what I mean? I know that a lot of work would go into that, and I know that if you think about like the America's voting system, it's like the most complicated system and successful system of all the systems we have. So I get that there's a lot of work that goes into that. But I mean, that's really how it should be. In the perfect world, that's how it would be. We would all as a group decide on the direction we want the industry to go. And we would force the people in charge to demonstrate to us what direction they think we need to go. Versus, and that's what's key, is that this forces the people in charge to get involved. It forces that. Versus the scenario where we're at, where they can just kind of, I mean, nothing could happen and no one would know.
Yeah, well, the whole power thing, I mean, we talked about it, the money kind of goes with the power, but people have influence, people of, is this person a lawyer, is this person a doctor, is this person an heiress to a fortune? Look, we got them, but students are treated different. You have
to be equal to all.
Yeah, they're treated differently depending on where they are. I mean, I've seen organizers run up to, lady heiress that does 400 entries and pays for the suite all the time. Run up to them and like, hey, how you doing? While the working stiff that comes in and only can do like 50, it's kind of like,
doesn't even get a hello.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming. You see that all the time. It's not hidden, and it's like, for me, you treat everybody the same, but that's just me. But you can see it. You can see it on the pro end. You can see it on the amateur end. That there is a, what do you got? For us, it's like, well, what are your accolades? Are you a champion? Oh, well, you're not. Well, not really. Oh, you don't have to be a champion, but do you bring a lot of entries?
Right.
So you have that power.
And you're absolutely right. It's not to say there aren't people out there who are doing things more properly or more just the way, equal for all. Like there are some examples out there.
Oh yeah, there are. There's plenty of those.
But,
There's plenty of those. We're just talking on examples,
yeah,
other examples, just to have a conversation here. But it's stuff that I've experienced, and I'm pretty sure you've experienced it on a certain level too. And
too
none,
much of.
and none of this says that the industry is just bad, but it's
Right.
good enough where a lot of people have mentioned a lot of these things over and over. You have amateurs that have mentioned it. I've heard students that weren't even mine talking about like, well, I
All
can't
too often.
because this person has more money. And so evidently it's broken enough. We can have this conversation. So let's not pretend that, some things can't be fixed.
Sure.
And we're talking about that, everyone should be sure. Like I said, I went to one comp and it was a small comp. Like I said, it was the one that was here in Columbus that it was like the New World Dance one. It was a USA
Dana
Dance.
Edwards.
Yeah, Dana Edwards. And honestly, everybody was treated the same. Everybody was, thank you for coming, no matter what they did. That was awesome. My students remembered that. That was great because it didn't matter how many you did, you got treated the same. And then it was no frills, it was in a gym. So guess what? You can keep the cost down.
Yeah.
So, can we make things for that? Yes. I love that the NTC has that section of it. And I'm not saying like, I love going to comps too, where it's like, let's go to Hawaii, let's go to Florida. We're gonna be staying in the Henry Hotel.
Nothing wrong with having those.
It's not nothing wrong with having those, but can we have a bracket that's like, well, you can't, this is not an NDCA comp, but you can go to these comps where, you're not getting the same level of comp or the same level of people to compete against just because it's, you're forced to go somewhere else because you can't afford the bigger comps, which are they're escalating in cost.
Yeah. And they're popping up more and more and being fancier and fancier is the whole. So it's, only going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's not to say that there aren't, like Michael said earlier, it's not to say there aren't exceptions to what we're talking about. Of course there are, but it just seems like all too often it's going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty of organizers I know that are just, really square people. I mean, they're right on top of it. Many coaches that have, done more than, they're
For sure.
Big time. We're not talking about that. We're not saying the whole industry is like that. We're saying there is a systematic breakdown.
Yeah. There are some consistencies that there shouldn't be.
Right. So I'm going to be very interested to see when this, supposedly we have a vaccine coming up pretty soon. I'm going to be really interested when things get back to normal. Will there be a kind of like an effect from all? Will people still have the financial means to do it at that level? And will we think proactively and go, let's do this now? Or will it be a kind of like a sticker shock where we're going, well, why didn't this not do well? We've got the vaccine. Well, they're hurting. You didn't think about it. So I would be interested to see how this goes coming down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for those of you at home that joined us, thank you. If you have any thoughts, please share them. As always, Michael and I appreciate you joining us, and we appreciate any feedback we can get. So yeah, thank you guys. Check us out, perfectpartner.us. In the news section, you can find a bunch of episodes where we have been doing this for, I don't know, about 8 weeks now, or 8 episodes now. We've been doing it longer than 8 weeks. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Michael. Always a pleasure to see you. Absolutely. And I'll see you and everyone else next week. So, we can talk about something.
Talk about it. See you later, guys.